Okay, we're back, 20-1. We're on page 409 in our books, and we're going to learn about dividing rational expressions today. So dividing any type of rational number, okay, you multiply by the reciprocal. Okay, so if you divide a rational, you multiply by the reciprocal. So just a quick example here, say if we had a over b divided by c over d, if I multiply by the reciprocal, the first one stays the same. Okay, the reciprocal of c over d is d over c, and multiplying. And then we just do the exact same thing that we did before, where we multiply in the numerator, multiply in the denominator. The only thing that, besides this extra step here, now our non-permissible values are usually our denominator. When we multiply by our reciprocal, we also get c, so what was in my numerator. So then technically I am going to have that many non-permissible values. So those are the two things to kind of pay attention to. So to warm us up on this, so 7/10 divided by 3/14. Okay, well, I change that to a multiplication sign, and I flip that. So 7/10 times 14 over 3. Okay, and so you do the math there. Oops, just getting my calculator. 7 times 14 is 98, divided by 30, and I think maybe that's, no, they're both even numbers, so we should be able to go 49/15, and then 49 I don't think can, I think that's as simplified as it gets. Okay. Alright, so then this next one here, okay, I've got division here. This one's multiplication. I leave that one alone. It's this one that I'm going to change. So I change the division to multiplication, and I flip that. So that's going to be like that. Okay? So then you multiply all across the top. So 6 times 10 times 1 is 60. 5 times 9 is 45, and 45 times 20 is 900, and then you just want to simplify that, and that should be 1/15. Okay, next one. So remember BEDMAS or PEDMAS or however you learned it, okay? Brackets or parentheses is first. Okay, so we multiply what's in here, so this is going to stay the way it is. 9 on top, 200 on the bottom. Now we're going to multiply by the reciprocal. Okay, and we can do our simplifying, okay, if we want to say, okay, well, 3 goes into 6 twice, 3 goes into 9 3 times. Okay, so that simplifies that. We can also do 5s. How many times does 5 go into 200? Okay, that would be 40. So then 2 times 40 is 80. And then I just have 3 on the bottom. Okay, so we can simplify before or after, it doesn't matter. As long as simplifying does happen, doesn't quite matter the order. Okay, so those are with actual numbers. Of course, we're going to be using variables. Okay, so simplify. At this stage, we're not going to worry about the restrictions. We're going to talk about those after. Okay, right here, down here. So, division. So, 16a over 9b squared. And then I change that to multiplication, and then I flip it. Okay, and same thing, I can do some simplifying. This a and this a, okay, that a cancels out, that square cancels out, this b cancels out, one of those squares cancel out, so I'm left with in the denominator an a and a b. Okay, then I've got 16 and 32, both have 8s. 8s can go into 16 twice, 8 can go into 32 4 times. Oh, I could have done 16. Duh. Okay, so 16 goes into 16 once and goes into 32 twice. And then 9 and 15 both have multiples of 3, so 3 times 5 is 15. 3 times 3 is 9. So then in the numerator, all I'm left with is a 5. And in the denominator, I have a 3 and a 2, so that's going to be 6ab. Okay? And of course, a and b can't equal 0, but we're not worrying about that right now. Okay? Okay, so for b, I want to change this one. So we could go ahead and write these all over the same thing. So negative 5xy 3 times 2z, okay, z, and then 7xz times 15x. And then here I am going to multiply by my reciprocal, so I'm going to flip those, negative 21z4, 10x squared y squared. Okay, so now I want to cancel stuff out. So I've got a z here and a z there, so there's 5 z's. Maybe I'll get everything together first. Let's do that. Negative 5 times 2 is negative 10. I've got x, y, and then z 5, right, because 4 and the 1. Then in my denominator, I've got 7 times 15 times 10, which I'm going to plug into my calculator, so that's going to be 1050. Then I've got an x here, 2 there, so that's going to be 4 x's total. My y's just there, and then there's my z's there. Okay, so now I'm going to cancel out. So the 10 over the 1050, okay, I'm going to get rid of that 0, so it's going to be 1 over 105. My x's, this x is going to go away. I'll be left with 3 x's. Those y's are going to go away, and I'm going to be left with 1 y up top, and then those z's are going to go away, and I'm going to be left with 2 up top. So I'm going to have negative yz squared. Okay, and then on the bottom 105 x 3. Okay. All right. So non-permissible values. So I want you to fill these out because you should be able to do this with your knowledge that we have right now. So I'm going to give you like 2 minutes, fill those out. Okay, so for our non-permissible values, we should have here b is not equal to 0, right? D cannot equal 0. If and then this is what I was telling you guys before, the first step to simplifying is to invert the divisor, which means to flip it, and then multiply, which means it adds another non-permissible value of that c. Okay, all right, and I just saw this guy. You guys probably are like, oh my god, she didn't see that negative 21. So then negative 21 would be down here because we didn't simplify. I don't know why I didn't see that. So then that's going to simplify. So 105. Okay, so 21 goes into 105 5 times. Okay, and then our variables are the same. Sorry about that. Okay, so that was just that extra step there. I forgot that negative 21. I multiplied these two, but not that one, which is fine. We got there. Okay, so next page. Okay, so for a division of this type, we need to consider the non-permissible values of b, c, and d. So the two obvious denominators, and then the numerator of that second term because you're flipping it. So any variable which appears in the denominator at any stage are obviously considered for non-permissibles. Okay, state the restrictions. So we just have to state the restrictions. So that's going to be those terms right there. Okay, so b and a, neither of those can equal 0. Okay? For this one here, Okay, so all the denominators, but when I'm dividing, also the numerators. Okay, so that's going to be my x, y's, and z's. So x can't equal 0, y can't equal 0, z can't equal 0. Okay? Okay, so the method for division of rational numbers is the same for, rational expression is the same for numbers. So the first step, I'm going to highlight that, is usually to invert the divisor and multiply. Sometimes you might want to simplify first, and that's fine, but that's usually the first step. Okay? And then non-permissible values, just keep an eye on those. Okay? Okay, so x plus 1 divided by x minus 2 times x plus 3 divided by 2x plus 1 divided by x times x plus 3. So as per, if we wanted to do non-permissible values first, that's going to be all these spaces, okay? And so then the x's we could just put at the side. So this is going to be a -1, that's going to be -3, that's going to be 0, that's -3 again, and that's going to be +2. So sometimes it's nice just to recognize your NPVs at the beginning, okay, and then go for it. Okay, so I'm going to remember my first term stays the same. It's my second term, so I flip it, I write multiplication, then I flip it. So this is a nice example because it's all factored out, so it's pretty easy for me to see things that get canceled out. Okay, so then I'm left with an x on top and an x minus 2 and this 2. So then x, 2x minus 2, x cannot equal -1, 2, 0, -3. Technically I'd put those in order, but as long as I'm stating them, that's good. Okay. So these are the two different ways you can see division. In this one, some of you might be thinking like, holy heck, but all it is, this is just our division sign. So no big deal. We write out the first one, because it's not going to change, and then we multiply, and so then we multiply by the reciprocal. So x plus 4, and I'm just going to write it out like this, and then 3x squared plus 9. Okay, well, I'm going to write that in factored form too. I'm going to take out a 3x, and then that's going to turn it into x plus 3. Okay. So now, I guess I could simplify this one, and by simplify I mean factor, sorry. 4 gives me x plus 3, and this one gives me 3x plus 4. Okay, so just factored out there. So then, now that I've got it written like this, I can start canceling things out. Okay, and so then I should just have this x plus 4. Okay, this 3 and that 3x, so that's going to be 9x, and then that's it. And so then our non-permissible values are going to be, okay, anything that's in the denominator, and then remember that used to be in the denominator. Okay, so we're going to have x can't equal this -4, that -3, that 0, and there's a -4 again. So it's just going to be -4 and -3 and 0. Okay? So two things to remember when you're dividing. You multiply by the reciprocal of that second term, and you keep an eye on restrictions. Even if it doesn't state that it wants the restrictions, you should still put them. Okay? All right. Two more examples. So it says, perform the indicated operations for each of the following expressions. Express final answers in lowest terms, so that means simplifying, canceling out anything that needs canceling out, and of course identifying the NPVs. Okay, so obviously we are going to have to factor this, okay, and of course we're going to have to flip and take the reciprocal. Okay, so for the first one, 4x squared minus 12x, so I want you guys to just, as I work through, I want you to work through the factoring. Okay, and we'll meet up in a second. Okay, so your first expression, your first term should be factored like that. And if you wanted to factor the way it was here, but we might as well flip it. Okay, so I'm going to put what was in my denominator there in my numerator, and I know it's going to be some binomials, and then that's going to come down there. Okay, so then that's what you should have factored out. And now, whatever we can cancel out, we're going to cancel out. So I see that x plus 1, x plus 1, x plus 3, x plus 3, x minus 3, x minus 3. So I'm just left with, and there's an x too, so one of these can go away, and this x can go away, so just the 4 and the 7x. Okay. Alright, so now we need to think about what our non-permissible values are. Okay, so it's going to be all that. So we've got plus or minus 3. We've got 0. We've got negative 1. Okay, there we go. Alright, B, it looks crazy, but it's not so bad. Okay, so we're still going to factor, and then we're still going to do our little flipperoonie. So let's factor everything first, and then we will do what's in the brackets before we flip it. Okay, so go ahead and if you like to just like watch up here while I do it, or if you like to go ahead and do it, then you can go ahead and do it. Okay, so I've got this factored out. Okay, we've got, there was a difference of squares that was obvious in this first one, and then here when we factored that out, we found another difference of squares. Okay, so then that breaks down into there. So then I see this m minus 1, those cancel out. This m plus 1 cancels out. I've got, so then I'm just going to cross this one out too, just so we don't get confused. So I should just have 11m, and then 2m plus 3, 2m minus 3. Yep. And then 2m plus 3. Oh, well, those cancel out. They're just written opposite, but it's addition, so it doesn't matter. Okay, so let's simplify this bad boy down. So now when I divide by a fraction, I multiply by its reciprocal. So this 2m minus 3 is now going to be up top, and this 11m and 2m plus 3 is going to be in the bottom. Okay, oh, excuse me. So I see, let's see, is there anything else? 11m. Okay, I think that's okay. So then I have my, those m's cancel out, for sure. I also have 2m minus 3, and then 3 minus 2m. So this is one of those cases where I'm off by a negative. So if I factor out a negative here, then that's going to turn this into negative plus, which then I can cancel those two. I'm still going to have a negative hanging around, but that's okay. And I feel like I'm missing something, but I'll just keep going because I don't have anyone to tell me, hey, Miss Scott, you forgot something. Okay, so 10 on top. Okay, oh, and a negative, we can make it. And then I'm going to have an 11. and I'm going to have a 2m plus 3. Okay, and okay, I looked at my key and it says I'm missing an m on the bottom, but I don't see it. I have an m. I don't see an m missing. Okay, well, if you guys see an m missing, you can discuss amongst yourself. I don't see an m missing. So I think it's a error with the key, but maybe it's an error with me. You guys can let me know on next day I'm here. Okay, so I kind of got carried away with these. So my non-permissible values, now this gets a little crazy because it's going to be this term, right? So that's what gives me my plus or minus 3 over 2. That's going to be the same, right? Because those are the same right there, except for off by a sign, but that's covered. There's my minus 1 and plus 1, which are those two. Okay, and then those two are covered, that's the same. And then there's my m is equal to 0 right there. Okay? All right. So, one more example. Okay, so this one, once again, looks a little bit tricky, but it's not so bad. You just have to, I like to get rid of these. Okay, so we're going to write this as 10 over a minus 12 2a plus 1, and then I'm just going to write ahead multiplied by the reciprocal. Which I can't, because this right here needs to be written with a common denominator first. Okay? So in order to get a common denominator here, because technically this is over 1, right? I would need to multiply by a over a. So then that's going to give me 5 plus 4a over a. Now I can multiply by my reciprocal. Okay? Alright, and so then we definitely want to figure that out first, because once again with BEDMAS, okay, we want to get those together, or no we don't, we want to, yeah, we can get those together, because that's division there. Okay, so the common denominator here, I would need to multiply this by a, and this by 2a plus 1. And remember, technically it's a over a, and 2a plus 1 over 2a plus 1. Okay, so it's going to be a, 2a plus 1. And then that's going to get multiplied in, okay? So that's going to be 20a plus 10 minus 12a. Okay, and then we didn't have to do anything here. All right. So now I just need to do the math here. So 20a minus 12a is going to give me 8a plus 10, which let's factor that out. That's going to be, because we might have something cancel out. So 2 and then 4a plus 5. Yeah, see, that's right there. Okay, and so then this at the bottom, a, 2a plus 1, and then I'm still multiplying by this, oopsies, plus 4a. Okay, so since I canceled, or sorry, since I factored those out and I see they're equal, I can cancel those out. Okay, I see that an a and an a can cancel out. So I'm left with 2 over 2a plus 1. Okay, and then of course I still have to state my restrictions, which I would highlighter. Okay, so it's going to be, that's going to be a is equal to, or can't equal 0 rather. This one right here, if I move that 1 over and then divide by 2, that's going to give me negative 1/2. Okay, that's another, that one was in the bottom up here, but we already stated it as 0. Okay, and then this one right here, I'd move that 5 over, so it'd be negative 5, divide by 4, so that's going to be negative 5 over 4. Okay? Alright, so you can work on the assignment from here, and then next bell you can play the other video. Okay.